Introduce this young brother. This brother is phenomenal because he's moved out on the spirit that is leading him to make sure, brothers and sisters, that we have homes. Not just any homes, but affordable homes. This brother, he's an Afro-Futuristic Generalist. Please give a warm round of applause to our brother Kémo.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. And I'm honored to go on after Brother Nori Muhammad. He was such a dynamic speaker. He makes this microphone sound so different when you're on versus when you're on it. So, you know, it's definitely a lesson, so many lessons that he dropped. As Baba Steve Muhammad said, my name is Kémo Kay-Moe. I am a serial entrepreneur and real estate entrepreneur and developer investor here in Dayton, Ohio, born and raised. And today I want to talk about this concept of Trep or Die. And when I say Trep or Die, people think, you know, I'm talking about the old Jeezy album. If anybody's familiar with Young Jeezy, anybody in the audience old enough to know? Okay, all right, so people know. All right, good. I know I look young, but I'm not that young. I definitely remember it's been 20 years. And with that though, you know, I'm taking that term of, you know, the trap house, you know, the idea of this trap mindset, and I'm showing our young people, especially our young brothers, as Brother Nori was saying, specifically our young brothers, and showing them that what they're doing is really just a few degrees away from the proper way to practice entrepreneurship. And the only thing that they're lacking is access and exposure to the way to do entrepreneurship without the wrong product. Because so many of our young people have the wrong products, as he was talking about the sea of sin. So many of us see the opportunity to commercialize in the sea of sin, but nobody recognizes the value of commercializing in legitimate capacities. And so I have a venture called Trep House that teaches young people, especially young men, young boys, Generation Z. I'm also myself in millennial, Gen X, really wanting to show these current younger generations how entrepreneurship is usually supported. And today I want to talk about Trep or Die because it's literally a Trep or Die situation. There's a statistic out there that a lot of people have heard about where by 2053, the black net worth in America will be $0. And I ask people oftentimes, if you were talking about a zero net worth situation in a capitalistic society, what does that say for your people? That doesn't bode well in a capitalistic society to have a $0 net worth. It's already dismally low, and it's because of a lack of control in economics. And with that, I say Trep or Die because it's not just literal death, which it is, because without entrepreneurship, no community survives, let alone thrives, but it's also rolling the dice on our future. Because so many of us are accustomed to going to jobs or looking for support from other communities in order for us to have sustenance, we are literally leaving our realities in the hands of other people, and it's another group that's defining our future, not us. So as we talk about Afrofuturism, who's defining the future of African people on this planet? If there's these statistics that are coming out, are these coming out from research and development institutes that are owned and operated by African people? If they are not, then how can someone else define our future unless they control which direction that we're going? So I propose to everyone in this audience that even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, we aren't encouraging everybody to be an entrepreneur. We know everybody doesn't want to do that. But the fact of the matter is, you are working for an entrepreneur if you have a job. Even if you don't have a job, if you're in the streets and you're getting a pack from somebody, you're working for an entrepreneur. Now, I'm not encouraging people to sell drugs, but the reality of the matter is these young men actually are more skilled than any Fortune whatever CEO, because the risk that they have to take with every transaction they make puts their life in danger, either going to jail, being killed, or having to kill another brother. Because, and I talk to young brothers and I put some of this stuff into perspective, and I tell them, think about this. Would you kill somebody for lettuce? Would you kill somebody for kale? I'm like, but you'll kill somebody for that thing that you're selling that comes out the ground, whatever product it is, it comes off the planet Earth. So if you wouldn't kill somebody for something that's in your grocery store, why would you think it's okay to kill somebody for this product besides they convinced you that it's that valuable? Something that's designed to take you out of yourself is more valuable than food that you put in your body, but they grow from the same place. And so how do we take that mindset of this independence, you know, controlling my destiny, being able to earn, you know, beyond a basic livable wage that so many young people admire, and show them how to translate that over to legitimate entrepreneurship by helping them understand who they are, get knowledge of self first and foremost, and then determining what they have an affinity for, what their personality type is, what kind of communication style that they have, what their skills and strengths are, and then from there you get into entrepreneurship. You don't get into entrepreneurship because somebody else is doing it, but if you're in a situation like so many of us are, where the first angel investor in your life is usually a drug dealer, when you're at the store with your friends, or you on the street, you know, an ice cream truck comes by, you know, a lot of us have seen the experience or had the experience. It's always that one guy who buys ice cream for everybody in the neighborhood, or buys, you know, all the stuff for you and your friends when y'all go to the store as kids, and everybody's like, man, I want to be just like bro. Like, I mean, he driving what he wants to drive, talking to who he wants to talk to, goes where he wants to go, like he's living his life, and they admire the freedom that's associated with that form of entrepreneurship. But nobody is there to show these young people that they can actually take entrepreneurship and dig their ways out of their situation, even while they're still in public school. There are communities around the world that have incubators. One that's really specific and notable itself is one out of Nigeria. It's called the Imu Ahia, and it literally means the business. It's the business apprentice program, or the apprenticeship program, and it's practiced by the Igbo tribe, which is the largest, you know, tribe in Nigeria. And they have a requirement, and it all started back during the tribal wars that happened late 60s, early 70s, that lasted for about 3 or 4 years. It decimated the entire Nigerian community. And what happened was they had what was called a 20-pound rule. And they instituted this rule and said no matter how much you had in the bank before this civil war happened, every Nigerian, man, woman, children, gets 20 pounds. That's all you get. You could have had millions in the bank. You get 20 pounds. So the Nigerians decided, they came together and was like, what can we do about this situation? Well, we know we have to start businesses. That's the only way we can sustain our community. But they instituted a policy where every business person had to take on an apprentice for anywhere from 4 to 8 years. And during that time, they gave them a real, raw, visceral experience of what entrepreneurship looked like by letting them join them and literally opening the books, taking them literally under their wing and grooming them to be entrepreneurs as children. And once those young men, and it was typically young men, especially those that were without homes, their families were killed in the wars, etc., they were, you know, separated, etc., they were taking these young men off the streets. They weren't going to foster homes. They would have these businessmen, like, you have the resources to do it. The people in the community make it possible for you to thrive. So you're going to take on a young apprentice for 4 to 8 years. Once that young apprentice is ready to graduate from high school, you're going to support him in launching his own business. And when they say launch your own business, that's giving you the space to do it, helping you get connected to the supply chain, making the introductions to the people with the banking, you know, into things, making all the, literally opening the door and walking them through, holding their hand all the way to their destination. And once they get done, that young person now has to take on an apprentice, and that business person that put that apprentice on has to take on a new apprentice. And with that, everybody knows today who was the most entrepreneurially successful national, international demographic in the United States. Does anybody know? Take a wild guess. Nigerian people. Literally, because of the Amu Ahia, which is still in effect today and is considered the largest incubator in the world because of how many young people go through this program. And it wasn't formally organized as an incubator. So what I'm saying in that is, with Trep House, the reason that Trep House is so important is because we don't have places that support entrepreneurship. Then the only mentors that our young people have are those brothers on the street who didn't have mentors either, and literally raised themselves or had mentors who didn't have mentors either, and this vicious cycle has been created. But we are witnessing successful entrepreneurs, and we cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater and dismiss our young man and shame our young man and tell them that what they're doing is wrong, because what they're trying to do is create commerce and engage in economics. But if the only thing you have access to are drugs as a commodity to sell, literally, this is before the internet, so you didn't have Alibaba, you didn't have all these things up until now, and you're seeing these even renowned criminals who are rapping. T Grizzly, I don't know how many people know T Grizzly, but he just had a whole article about a month ago about how he's now making $20,000 a month off of playing video games, and he's getting his young guys who aren't famous rappers to take and step out the streets and use esports to earn $2,000 to $3,000 a month playing video games. They're putting down selling drugs, they're putting down shooting guns, because we don't want to do these things, but this is what we're offered. And we are literally given a franchise when we step into the streets. So people don't understand and put context to what's really going on, but we're literally running Fortune whatever organizations in our communities, and we only have had a few commodities to choose from. So as we start to show young people who they are and help them get to know themselves and really understand what their purpose is on this planet, and realize that whatever that is, you can actually make a lot of money doing it. I don't care what it is. You can make a lot of money doing it. It doesn't have to be only entertainment. It doesn't have to be playing. And there's nothing wrong with people who go to professional sports. But think about it. We're only good enough to dance, to sing, and to play kids' games as grown adults. That's the only way that they're willing to pay us what they say we're worth, based off of our bodies, not what's in our minds or our spirits. And there's so many different forms of capital that we miss. There's 9 forms total. We only think about financial. Money is only a medium of exchange to connect the other 8 forms of capital. Before money, we had what was called a bartering system. But it made it difficult to value what my capital was and what your capital was in relation to each other, because if we didn't both need what each other had, there was no way we could do business. So money literally existed to be a medium, a middle ground, to make it easier to exchange services, because that's how the world works. Everybody has their special craft. Every single person is an entrepreneur. If you're not an entrepreneur, you're working for an entrepreneur. And in working for an entrepreneur, you can own stock in that company. If you don't want to work for a growing entrepreneur, you can be an investor in that company. So there's ways as a community, even if you don't want to take on the risk and the burden of being an entrepreneur, that you can be involved in it. And with Facebook, for example, we had so many professionals in Facebook that came in that became billionaires and millionaires that were not Mark Zuckerberg. There were millionaires, 50, 60 employees down in Facebook. Who is some of the biggest users of these platforms? So why couldn't we literally artificially create the same buzz for our own platform and create that kind of wealth for not only the employees of that company, but as us as stockholders? Because we know buying into it, we're going to get on this platform. It's literally the type of things we're witnessing these other communities do, because, as Brother Nuri Muhammad said, they are connected and in these orchestrated, concerted efforts. We don't have any unity, we lack trust, and we lack communication, and those things seem nominal because it's like, oh, I can get it on my own. 95% of all black-owned businesses only ever have a single employee, the founder themselves. We don't have businesses that grow to have 5 and 10 employees. On the other end of the spectrum, in America, 90% of all jobs, every single job that anybody works, 90% of all the jobs created are companies that have 5 employees or less. So these aren't the Amazons or the Walmarts that you think when they have all these incentives for these big firms that come into your city. They don't create all the jobs. These companies that have 5 employees or less that create 90% of the jobs in America. But on the other end of the spectrum, 95% of all black businesses never have an employee besides the founder. So we wonder why there's no wealth in our communities. We wonder why there's no jobs in our communities, because these other groups are literally working in the companies to make the wealth happen, owning stocks in those companies and double dipping, selling them, exiting them, all these pivots and twists is all legal, and they're doing it right in front of our faces, and we are just consuming it. Because we don't produce anything, there's no value that can be exchanged. And so the only thing we operate in the commodity world is with our bodies, and we have to change and begin to show our young people that with these things that we hold in high regard, there are other types of entrepreneurship you can engage in, and you just really have to get to know yourself. But coming into this, next 30 years, they're projecting we're going to be at $0 because we're going to still be asking for jobs. And as Brother Steve Muhammad said, automation is the name of the game. They needed us before because they didn't have technology where it's at now. They're saying in 2053 it's going to be $0. It's like, we know by then we will be done with y'all. We don't have to give you any more jobs. Technology will be at a point where robots can do everything. So if we don't create our own operations in a capitalistic society where it says our net worth will be $0, then we will cease to exist. And with that, I close.
All right, thank you, brothers and sisters, for coming on out to Knowledge for Life's Knowledge Cypher Conference Series.
You gotta have it. You gotta have it. You gotta have it.